Hi, and welcome. In this video, we will look at how we as project managers set up a business case to maximize the success rate of our projects. This will elaborate on the 3 steps to ensure your project's approval and ease your work. Let's get started. Getting a project started in the right way is most often highly dependent on the quality of the pre-phase. Within an agreed framework among key stakeholders before the project is approved, we must therefore search for knowledge about known constraints in the host organization, income and costs as an impact of the project, and potential hazards to its implementation. A project is not adopted just because someone has come up with a good idea. In the preparation phase, a project idea must first be presented with a tentative business case. An authoritative actor in the host organization must then give an assessment of the project and approve that there's something to carry on with. Then a decision must be made on the basis of a more detailed business case and a baseline explaining key elements of project scope, finances, and time schedule. The most significant aspect to document is a credible correlation between the use of resources now and future earnings. 3 documenting elements are significant in the project idea and its submission. These are the project portrait of the host organization's ability to handle the project, the cost-benefit analysis of potential net earnings, and the risk assessment of hazards. As the very first step, it pays off to make a project portrait in collaboration with key stakeholders. Even simple projects with known deliverables can be quite complicated to implement if they are unfolded under conditions that appear unclear or uncertain in the host organization. The analysis of these provides a thorough initial overview of the conditions that can delay, add cost, and complicate the project if not taken care of from the start. In the organizational image, analysis is done to establish the degree of complexity in the workflows of the host organization. This relates to solutions, professional disciplines, and end users. In the political image, the degree of conflict about the project's implementation and solutions is also analyzed, as well as any scarce resources for its implementation. This relates to potential conflicts of funding and interests. In the technical image, analysis is done concerning the purpose and the extent to which it can be defined unambiguously and whether it can be broken down into a hierarchy of objectives. This relates to planning and estimation issues. And finally, in the business image, the analysis is concentrated on the importance of the project as well as profit realization and benefits in the long term. This relates to profitability and payback time. Different archetypes of project approaches require different points of attention. Sometimes all 4 parameters of the portrait highlight the positives, and all you need is just to get started. At other times, they uncover many negative aspects, at which point it might be for the best to terminate the project immediately. What lies in between these extremes must of course be dealt with in close dialogue between the project manager and the project owner. It is important to clarify hurdles in the implementation of the project before it starts. And above all, once the project is organized, you must secure the support of a future steering committee to clarify matters about the nature of the project or the nature of the host organization that are outside your mandate as a project manager. As the second step, a cost-benefit analysis is made. The financial starting point is that the adoption of a project cannot depend on the gut feeling of the actors. Therefore, an analytical approach for pros and cons is most often applied, with the collection of predominantly numerical data that matches the documentation requirements of the host organization. You need an informed decision-making basis for the financial aspects from an assessment of the project's total cost and revenue from implementation, along with an estimate of the payback period and a break-even point for a potential profit. The crucial aspect for companies is most often the break-even point. This indicates for how long time the funding will be tied to the project, the payback period, and whether it leads to a positive return on investment. Therefore, cost-benefit analysis are almost always measured in a monetary sense in private sector businesses. There's a world of difference in whether the project shows a break-even profit after 3 years or after 15 years, and whether profit barely covers the cost of the project or the overhead is acceptable. With 15 years and a small margin of profit, project approval does not stand a chance. Decisions on initiating projects can vary from industry to industry and in relation to size and importance of the project. A rule of thumb is that if the expense is 50% of the income and its break-even is achieved in less than 3 years, the margin is satisfactory. Uncertain project environments require a risk assessment as a third initial element to be carried out. This relates to how sensitive the project is to changes in external terms and internal conditions. Externally, critical events, business cycles and market conditions for the end product, as well as the financing of the project and access to knowledge are important. Internally, permanent access to experts and key personnel is important. In a sensitivity analysis, key factors relevant to the implementation and subsequent operation are selected. The parameters are tested via simulations in different risk scenarios with a so-called what-if analysis. The sensitivity analysis is thus applied to assess the benefit-cost ratio of probable scenarios and to estimate how they might affect the net present value, the payback period, and the break-even time. The assessment of risks in the business case should almost always end in a comparison between the project's risk profile and the project owner's risk appetite. If the risk profile is significantly higher than the risk appetite, consideration should be given to initiating the project at all or incorporating prevention strategies or mitigation strategies in the risk management efforts. In any case, plans should be made to address the impact of different what-if scenarios on the project. The purpose of the sensitivity analysis is thus to communicate with key stakeholders about their assumptions and expectations even before the project is adopted. The risk issues are covered in depth in another video on this channel and extensively in my book along with all major project management and leadership topics. It's available on Amazon Kindle and the link is here. We now have the business case foundation. This is the documentation of potential impact of a project on the future business or life situation of the product owner and stakeholders. This is now submitted as a basis for decision to the executive board or other authoritative decision-making bodies in the host organization. A business case goes beyond the delivery of physical products or services. You analyze and sum up the long-term utility and value of the project once it has been put into operation by the product owner. Whether it's a new invoicing system with internal economic efficiency impact in the company or a new hospital with extensive social impact on health, the long-term value of the product for numerous stakeholders must be made visible. A business case thus shows the creation of added value, whether measured in financial, health, or social terms, although the latter being somewhat harder to assess. It creates an overview that is applied to establish credibility around a business idea, including benefits, costs, and risks. This is not an exact science, but when done properly, with data, show the rationale for starting the project, and the concept helps decision-makers assess the project. A well-designed business case contains data and facts and rational arguments to support its conclusions. It's intended to counteract the urge to simply set something in motion on assumptions and symbolic justifications. After having done the initial work on the business case, we are now ready for the design of a project baseline as the next step before the final approval of the goals and plans. These elements are all part of a thorough investigation functioning as a proper project foundation and are covered in other videos on this channel as well as object breakdown and work breakdown structures. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon on this channel for even more project management videos.